Ladies and gents, welcome to the channel. Mantalk Productions here. It's been a while. Good to see you folks back. I thought I'd jump in something fun this evening. As you can see, this might not be quite what you expected. I was going to jump in the Twin Otter in Microsoft Flight Simulator this evening because, you know, all the rage and that. But the Twin Otter's actually been around for quite a long time. It's been in FSX, P3D, all versions of P3D. It's probably in X-Plane. So what I'm doing is I am going and jumping in a bit of a blast from the past. What I've been doing recently behind the scenes is I've been reinstalling Prepared 3D version 3.4, specifically to fly this beast. Now, what you may be looking at on your screen, for any of those of you who are new to the channel, you might just be wondering, what on earth is this looking thing? Like, yes. Yeah. So, for those of you who've been around for a very, very long period of time, some of you in the dark, murky, distant past may have remember the series of tutorials I did, or I suppose you could have, you couldn't really call them tutorials, they were pretty bad. I did a series of videos on the B377, that's Boeing B377 Stratocruiser by A2A Simulations. Now, this is an add-on that was developed originally in 2008. It's been a long time. This thing has been around a long, long time. It's natively coded for FSX, and P3D version 3 is the latest iteration of P3D where it actually works as intended. It does work in P3D version 4 and 5, but the AccuSim module and the Captain of the Ship module of the add-on does not work. So this is the latest iteration of a flight simulator where this add-on works pretty much as it was coded to work. So that's why I've gone all the way back, reinstalled V3, some add-ons to get this beast working again. Simply because A2A haven't updated it like they have their Lockheed Constellation for V5. So that's why I've gone back to V3.4 and do expect, excuse me, do expect a few more videos on this. I'm definitely going to be flying this in a number of locations around the world. I've been tactically researching some history and looking forward to reenacting some beautiful, beautiful flights in beautiful places of the world. So what I'm going to do today to kick off my ancient love of this aircraft is I'm going to simply begin this new voyage from Heathrow in 1949 to Shannon. We're going to refill the tanks up to the max at Shannon, and then historically the aircraft would then fly from Shannon to Gander in Newfoundland. It would refuel in Newfoundland, and then it would head on to New York. So this is the inaugural kind of 1950s version of Heathrow to New York. And when they landed in New York, they would have used LaGuardia. JFK, I don't believe JFK was around at the time, so they would have used LaGuardia, but, you know, don't quote me on that. What I do know is we will be flying Speedbird 501 today, outbound from Heathrow to Shannon in the Republic of Ireland. We'll be flying 18,000 feet, although this 1950s beauty was capable all the way up to flight level 320, I believe. That was the service ceiling of the Stratocruiser. This was pretty much the last iteration of large-scale propeller-driven airliners in the late 40s, early 50s, before jets came along, before the Comet came on the scene, before the Boeing 707, and all of the history that we are a bit more familiar with. Let me just mute the simulator while I finish off. So this was essentially the last major, this was the pinnacle of turbo supercharged commercial aviation. This came on the scene in 1949. a few years after World War II, and this is basically designed off of the model of the Boeing B-29 Superfortress, which was, of course, the aircraft we know that dropped the atomic bomb. And you can start, once I've mentioned that, you can start to see the influences of the B-29 Superfortress on the fuselage and the wings and the engine choice and the tail. You can see pretty much straight out of the design of the B-29, except that what they've done is they have ballooned the fuselage. They've kind of used a figure-of-8 style design. They've kind of done a double bubble approach. The top deck is, of course, the main deck, and then it's a double deck aircraft. They would have had a lower deck, which was kind of a saloon or lounge where they'd have cocktails, etc. And there were other cabins. There were different variants designed and put into production. Some had vastly different internal layouts. Some were set up to be sleeper strats. Others were much more like a setup for economy. The average passenger, the average passenger count would be in the 70s. The Boeing Speedbirds were, I believe, set out in a kind of multi-configuration on the internals. There were some compartments that were more like economy, and others that were the Monarch standard, which was kind of their first class standard with, you know, all the bells and whistles. Anyway, so without enough further ado, it's not a long flight today from Heathrow. I do have a bit of AI model matching set up in P3D version 3.4 for VATSIM that we're now logged onto. And as you can see, weirdly, but it makes sense, we are not over on the modern stands at Heathrow because they simply weren't around in the 40s and 50s. In fact, I believe it was mid-50s, I think it was 1955, that they built the first official terminal at Heathrow, which was in the area where Terminal 2 now stands. So basically this looks completely different in the mid-50s. But this is where the Stratocruisers, the DC-6s, the Argonauts, the Constellations, all of those sorts of mid-50s, the DC-3s, all the late 40s, mid-50s would dock up at a terminal that used to be where Terminal 2 now stands. So that's kind of what my methodology of why I've done that. Don't know why in this particular camera view the textures flicker, but there we go. Right, that's my intro. Without much further ado, let's jump in and I will show you a bit of my flight planning. I've already contacted ATC and he seems happy to let me depart with such a beast as this. So yeah, let's just position my throttle, my flight stick, and my piece of paper for taking VATSIM notes. Right, so that's my view. Let's jump in the aircraft, turn on track IR. So this being an A2A simulations aircraft, yeah, let's just keep those engine noises. Let's just keep those muted for the moment. Being an A2A simulations aircraft, it has AccuSim. It has Captain of the Ship, which is also in existence with the Constellation. But one of the cool things they did, which no one in the history of flight simming has ever done as well, and that is window condensation. And because the aircraft is cold and dark, it's sitting here on the ramp, and we have climbed inside, the crew is inside, ready to begin their day, with no heating on, with no electrics on. The aircraft knows that it's 5 degrees outside, and it is creating window condensation. So that's one of the first things we deal with. But actually, to hear AccuSim come to life, let's actually turn on the audio, and let's see if I can actually tweak. Where is that audio coming from? It's going to be coming from... Unfortunately, we're just going to have to put up with that, I think. So bear with me. Let's turn on our 2D panels. We have Shift 2 and Shift 3. Let's go, Shift 4 shows us our payload and fuel manager. Shift 5 is navigation. Shift 6 is engine selector. Shift 7 is a bit of a modded panel. I have the weather ship add-on, which we won't be using today, but we will be using it when we cross the Atlantic in a future video. Then we have the engine, the maintenance hangar. It shows us the health of our engines. You can see I have almost 30 hours on each engine, and each engine's condition is excellent. And then, last but definitely not least, is Shift 9. Shift 9 is our captain's log. This is the captain of the ship module. It logs all of my flights, a bit like Project Fly. It gives me some stats on all of the flights I've done so far. It tells me I'm the captain, the airline is satisfied, my salary, tells me a bit about the last flight that I flew, and it gives me some passenger comments. Kissed the ground on that landing. And it was like a great house party on that plane. So those are some good comments. I'm building myself up to have a successful Speedbird Boeing career. So, first things first, let's turn on our live engineer, and he's going to help us. He's going to sit in the back seat, and he's going to help manage a lot of these systems. So he's going to start setting up. What I'm going to do, I wish I could turn off a lot of that audio. No, it's not the coatl manager. That's going to be something else. That's probably the best we can do, unfortunately. But that horrible AI aircraft sound is just going to be a bit of a plague we're going to have to deal with. So, out of Heathrow, we've got Tower and ATIS and 10 departures, and we also have London Control. So while we wait, let's contact London Control. No, let's contact ATIS 12807. So the battery's on. Let's turn on the APU. That was 120 ATIS 128075. 128 007.
1 QNH 1038. Acknowledge receipt of information Delta and report aircraft type and current QNH on first contact with Heathrow.
Information Delta.
Heathrow information Delta. Time 1920 Zulu. Automatic. Arrival runway 27 left, departure runway 27 right, transition level flight level 65, surface winds 280 degrees 8 knots, visibility 10 kilometers or more, overcast 2,300 feet, temperature +4, dew point +1, QNH 1038. Acknowledge receipt of information Delta and report aircraft type and current QNH on first contact with.
Okay, so we have information Delta, QNH 1038, departure runways 27 right, and transition level 65, with a wind from 280, roughly 8 knots, that's from the west, and that should be okay. Now you can see that we've got some power going to the aircraft. Let's turn on the windshield defrosters, and we should see the hot air in the cabin beginning to reduce that window condensation as we go on. So, I have already contacted the tower controller to ask if he's happy with my departure clearance. So let's go and have a chat with Vaughn Jones before we do anything else. And he is going to be on South Tower 118.5. So let's go tune. (118.5) set. There's an A321 outbound. Let's just cycle through a few views here. I think that's a good view to start with. Oh, I do not have GSX installed because I run out of VAS, or virtual memory, because it's a 32-bit software application. So, excuse me. To actually...
72 Golf, left on Alpha, stand 508. Have a good evening.
Left on Alpha, stand 508. Speedbird 72 Golf, thanks for your service. Have a good evening too. See ya.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's contact... Okay, he is going to be Heathrow Tower. Heathrow Tower, good evening. Speedbird 501 with you, stand 221, Terminal 2, requesting IFR clearance as filed. Information Delta, QNH 1038. Aircraft type is a B377 Stratocruiser.
Speedbird 501, Heathrow Tower, good evening to you. Clear to Shannon, Compton 3 Foxtrot departure, squawk 0767.
Clear to destination as filed, Compton 3 Foxtrot departure, squawk 0767, Speedbird 501.
Speedbird 501, correct.
That's smooth.
Speedbird 2624, you can contact London now, 129.
That's smooth, confident. That's smooth, confident Heathrow ATC we know and love. 0767. Let's go 0767. That is our transponder is set. Now he's given us let's just pause track IR. He's given us Compton 3 Foxtrot. Let's go Sid.
I wonder if we can get our clearance for
Compton 3 Foxtrot.
Speedbird 034 start approved.
Compton 3 Foxtrot is essentially 27 right. We intercept 256 radial from London. And we follow that out,
after a company,
and then we go inbound to
21 as passed from your left to
Woodley,
right, push and start approved,
and then out to Compton.
So from left to right, push and start approved face north.
The only thing with the Stratocruiser is we don't have radials and we don't have DME. So it's going to be a bit of an ADF. There's going to be a bit of guesswork involved there. We're not allowed above 6,000 feet until further clearance from ATC. So we will see what we see. Okay, so let's go back to the taxi chart and let's think about what he's going to give us. So we are on Terminal 2 Alpha. We will push back and he'll probably give us Bravo.
Station calling, reach 5.
He'll probably give us Bravo all the way to Titan. Or yeah, he might give us, Bravo. Actually, he'll give us Bravo Alpha to Alpha Yankee 3 or Saturn or Hold Saturn, Link 22, something like that. Or Alpha 4. That's what we've got to be thinking about. Now,
145, hello, I read you 5.
Another thing about AccuSim, let's just go back to the engineers panel. So because we turned on the live engineer and he's now doing his business, what he's gone and done is he's prepped the panels for us. You can do all of this yourself. It's a bit of a higher workload, but you can do it all yourself if you want to. But what he's done is he's actually turned up the heat because he has seen that in the cabin, the outside air temperature is 5 degrees. So what he's done is he's brought the cabin temperature in the cockpit and the cabin up to 21 degrees with the heaters. He's turned those heaters on in preparation for inviting the crew and the stewardesses and the passengers inside. So now that we have the cabin interior heated, we can begin bringing on board our passengers. So let's just refill the oil from the previous flight. The aircraft remembers the exact state that you left it in on the previous flight, and I just hit the oil button and I refilled my oil, which is always incredibly important in an aircraft like this. That you always take off for every flight with the correct amount of oil. So let's bring on some passengers. Or actually, let's just set my fuel. I do have a Debrief flight plan. It's giving me just over £10,000 for this flight. So I've learnt not to pay too much attention to SimBrief when it comes to this aircraft. My friend and I, Ian, have been testing out a modded version of the Constellation profile on SimBrief, and it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. We don't trust the fuel planning too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take £17,000 of fuel, so I'm going to be tanking about £6,000 extra, and that's going to give me a bit of peace of mind going over to Shannon. And then, of course, on our transatlantic crossing from Shannon to Gander, we'll go with full tanks crossing the Atlantic. So now we're ready for our passengers. Let's just turn the audio back on so you can hear the beginning of the loading of that. Let's hit the heavy button.
B377 Alpha Mike, request taxi.
B377 Alpha Mike, taxi via Alpha, hold Pluto.
Alpha to hold Pluto, B377 Alpha Mike.
Sound. I'm just gonna...
Yes, sir.
There we go. I'm just going to change the engine noise because that outside AI engine noise is horrible.
Requesting IFR to Amsterdam, Schiphol Airport.
Okay, so...
Dude 145, hello again.
pause,
You are
track
clear
IR.
to Amsterdam. Brookmans Park 7, Foxtrot departure, squawk 2175.
Let's just turn him down as well. Right, first things first in the cabin. Let's release the control lock. Very important. And now we have full
Dude
rudder
145, cleared Amsterdam.
and aileron
Brookmans
and elevator
Park,
control.
7, Foxtrot departure, squawk
You can see
2175.
the movements going on there.
To Amsterdam, Schiphol Airport via the Brookmans Park 7 Foxtrot departure.
Let's turn on our radio altimeter
Dude 145.
reading equipment on both sides. Let's set 1,000 feet in the altitude selector,
Shamrock 385, ready for taxi.
like so, and that will give us
right, Alpha, hold it,
lights
Alpha 3.
that shine when it tells us what
Taxi
what altitude we
via
are.
Kilo, right to Alpha, hold Alpha 3, Shamrock 385.
Right, so let's
Super 9034, for push 42.
approach.
Cuba 9034, push and
Sid,
start approved.
Compton 3 Foxtrot. Right, so let's tune 113.6 on nav 1. 113, double check, 113.6 set. And let's change the nav 1 or the needle, the first needle, to nav from ADF, and we can see the London VOR reading already on the RMI. We have a dual RMI needle here, and on RMI needle 2 we're going to set Woolly, which is 352. So let's go set 352 on this side. Let's go. .352 set, and it's already set on ADF, and we don't see it yet, but it should appear. It should appear as we get ready to climb. Let me just go over to little nav map, and let's see. Yeah, we have Whiskey Oscar Delta. Yeah, that's all good. So our outbound is runway heading until we intercept 256 from London. So if we set 256 with our course, that will help us. In conjunction with these two, we can pretty much almost we can pretty much almost read a radial from that. Let's go see what our passengers are doing. Almost full. Okay, almost ready to go.
05 via Alpha 3, runway 27 right, surface wind 280 degrees, 8 knots, clear for takeoff.
27 right, clear for takeoff, Shamrock B377.
So what we're going to do, we're going to do a two-engined taxi, and we're going to start up the outboards closer to the hold in readiness for departure. So we're going to initially taxi away from the gate onto the two inboard engines, which is classically the way they would taxi around an airfield. They'd actually shut down the outboards after vacating the runway. Okay, there's our air stairs. It's being pushed back.
Good evening to you. Clear to Vienna, Detlink to Foxtrot departure, squawk 0541.
Okay, cargo's loaded. Doors are shutting. Let's turn on the fasten seatbelts and the no smoking. Let's turn on the beacon light. Let's wait for the strobe light. Let's turn on the position lights. And that should be good for my lights. Okay. Okay, so we need to talk to Tower and tell him we're ready for push and start. So let's just double check VATSIM. Yeah, looking good. Heathrow, Speedbird 502, gate 221, ready for push and start.
Speedbird 501, 221, push and start approved, face east.
Push and start approved, face east, Speedbird 501. Okay, so because we don't really...
305, contact London, now 129,
let's make sure the parking brake is off. And,
129, decimal 425, Shamrock 385, bye-bye.
Let's begin the pushback, and I will begin startup. We're going to start 3 first. Prime, prime, prime. Start. Boost. Make sure the RPM is at setting around 1,000. Let's go engine 2 on now as well. Prime, prime, prime. Start. Boost.
Okay, everyone's ready back here. You can hear the
Concord
now.
9034, ready for takeoff.
Prime.
Speedbird
Boost.
9034.
There we go.
Straight ahead on Victor, hold Sierra Bravo 3, holding short.
Okay, straight on Victor, short 27 left, Sierra Bravo 3.
Okay, now that's a quick and pretty dirty way.
Runway 27 right, surface wind 280 degrees, 6 knots, clear takeoff. That was just static.
Let's do 87 Alpha Mike radio check.
Restart now.
Clear for takeoff runway 27 right, by Alpha.
Okay.
87 Alpha Mike.
And let's turn that on. Let's turn on the taxi and the gear. Speedbird 501, ready for taxi.
Speedbird 501, taxi via Bravo, hold Titan.
Taxi via Bravo, hold Titan, Speedbird 501.
Speedbird 9034 at Sierra Bravo 3, cross.
Titan,
left,
okay,
and,
confirmed Titan, Bravo.
Right on Alpha, to hold it.
Okay, off with the parking brake, look left, look right, and let's bring engine 2, the inboard on the left. Let's bring that up higher than the one on the right, and let's bring ourselves a...
Speedbird 145 requesting push and start.
Speedbird 145, stand 546, push and start approved, face north.
Push and start approved, face north, Speedbird 145.
Flaps 5 degrees.
Speedbird 700 Whiskey, stand 507, push and start approved, face north. Roger, face north,
okay.
504, thank you.
Okay, we need to take Bravo, which I believe is not this turning, but the next one. We want to taxi around 20 to 25 inches of manifold.
Skyway 239, you are cleared to Frankfurt. Debt link to Foxtrot, squawk 0505.
Clear to Frankfurt, debt link to Foxtrot, 0505.
Skyway 239, correct.
Super Tower, good evening, Speedbird 15, radio check.
Speedbird 15, hello, reading 5.
Speedbird 145, can we get the QNH?
Speedbird 145, it is in the 80s, but it's QNH 1038.
QNH 1038, I did not see that thing.
A little bit loud.
Speedbird 87, Alpha Mike, contact London now, 118.475. Bye-bye.
Goodness me, that's loud.
118.475, good 87, Alpha Mike, right. Super Tower, good evening, once again, Speedbird 15, information Delta type, 789, stand 155, QNH 1038, customer clearance to Shanghai as filed.
Speedbird 15, hello to you, clear to Singapore, debt link to Foxtrot departure, squawk 5662.
Flaps 20 degrees.
Clear to destination is filed, that's into Foxtrot departure, squawk 5662, Speedbird 15.
Speedbird 15, correct.
Coming up to Nevis.
Skyway 239, 417, push and start approved, face, sorry, just push start approved.
Okay, while I'm on this stretch, I'm going to bring engine 1 and engine 4 online.
Prime 501 at Titan, you can take the left on Alpha to hold Alpha 3.
Once reaching Titan, take a left on Alpha and hold Alpha 3, Speedbird 501.
Speedbird 9034, right at link 23, hold
Let's
Alpha 1.
go
Link
start.
23, Alpha 1, and we are ready for departure.
Contact 1. Setting into coolant. Generator on.
Prime. Start.
Contact 4. APU off.
Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. We're just running through some final system checks, and we'll be ready to go in a few minutes. It's nice weather for flying, so relax and enjoy your flight. Our stewardesses are ready to serve you to make your flight an enjoyable one. Enjoy the flight.
Okay, here's Titan.
Speedbird 77 Whiskey, taxi Alpha hold at Pluto.
Roger, taxiway Alpha.
Okay, in the interim, I've set flaps 20.
Speedbird 501 via Alpha 3, runway 27 right, surface winds 280 degrees 6 knots, clear takeoff.
Clear takeoff runway 27 right from Alpha 3, Speedbird 501.
Speedbird 145, ready for taxi.
Okay, he's given me clearance to take off.
145, Charlie right, Bravo, hold Titan.
Go via Charlie, via Bravo, and hold Titan for runway.
Let's just look at our engine temps, so it's still looking good. As we cross the hold, let's turn on our landing lights. Let's turn on our strobe, which is there. And also let's turn on our ADI pump with our ADIs on auto. And we are then ready for takeoff. And remembering that after departure he will probably give us radar has come on 1972, yeah, okay, so ready for takeoff.
coming up.
Okay. Oh, that's not the one we wanted to delete. Okay. Okay. Lean, prop us full forward. We are ready to rumble. Let's bring the propellers up to...
Flight crew, prepare the cabin for takeoff.
Let's bring the propellers up to 55 inches manifold. And we should be rotating about 100 to 110.
Rotate.
Setting cowl flaps.
Steward, Concord 9034, line and weight.
Gear up.
Line up weight 27 right.
Okay, reduce to 45 inches manifold.
Delay, the slower traffic ahead.
And bring the RPM down to 2500. And then begin gradually bringing in the flaps.
Flaps 15 degrees.
And trimming. And watching
Go 2-3 and
for our
9,
radial.
taxi straight ahead, hold at Sierra Bravo 3, hold short 27 left. Taxi straight ahead.
256. Which is
Flaps 5 degrees.
25.
Setting cowl flaps.
2145, you will be talking
256,
to 118475 when you're airborne.
Let's turn 256. And we can see the ADF that we've picked up, actually, which is the RMI at Needle 2, so let's just follow that RMI.
501, you can contact London now, 129.425. Bye-bye.
129.425, thanks, Speedbird 501. Let's turn on the autopilot.
Autopilot on.
He gave us crap, who did he give us? 12942. Oh, screw that. That was the wrong one. 129. Ah.
Setting cowl flaps.
42. 12942. And the radial we need now is going to be 1435. set. Let's just bring a right hand turn coming in here. Let's reduce to 45 inches manifold. Okay, we're still inbound Whiskey Oscar Delta.
623, contact Brussels Control 131.41. Bye-bye.
One for your range, 9623, thank you, goodbye.
London, hello, Speedbird 501 with you climbing through 3,000 feet, Compton 3 Foxtrot.
Speedbird 501 on escort mode, Charlie.
So UPS 312 at flight level 370 with you.
UPS 312, London, hello, redirect Motox.
Let's reduce our climb rate there. Don't need that vicious a climb rate. I'd rather have 170 knots in the climb.
Stand by, break, UPS 312, London, good evening, redirect Motox.
Let's just keep on that, keep inbound Whiskey Oscar Delta. That's
good. Oh, yes, I do. You want me to go direct Motox? UPS 312?
Mike Oscar Tango Oscar X-ray. It should be after the waypoint Sandy.
Shoot!
Okay, I will go direct.
Ladies and gents, welcome back. We are now back.
787 Alpha taxi.
We are now back.
Holding point Bravo 1.
A day a day after the first clip that you saw. I'm reflying this flight with...
7 Kilo Hotel, contact London 127.1. Goodbye.
127.1, time jet 7 Kilo Hotel, thanks, and sorry about the mistake, I couldn't sweat it off.
No, you didn't. I think someone else did, but only a joke.
Thanks to you.
London Control, Jersey 506,
I'm following the ADF
today,
to Whiskey Oscar Delta, and once we see that flip round, we'll then track
Sorry, yes,
contact.
1 moment, break, Ryanair 3, Charlie, Foxtrot, descend to us 4,000 feet, QNH 1037.
We have 290 megabytes of VAS left, and I'm keeping my eye on that. And I'm not going to be changing any views.
Tower 124.225.
Okie dokie, Tower 124.225, thanks for that, super 2204.
So yeah, break, Air Portugal 2117, contact Heathrow 119.725.
119.725, 2117. Thanks, so have a good evening.
Bye.
Setting pressurization.
London Control, Jersey 506, requesting backtrack on 27 at Delta.
Jersey 506,
so,
backtrack, vacate Kilo, hold mic.
Climbing 170 which is just about where I wanted to be.
Jersey 506. This big aircraft can fly strong all the way to the
And hoping that as soon as we leave the London airspace, our our narrow VAS margin should drop. But that's just the nature of flying in and out of London. I see Whiskey Oscar Delta is scooting to the right, so it's
7 uniform Mike, London Control,
not long before we pass that, as we'll see. Just cranking in a right-hand turn.
Squawk for me, so it's just regenerating 6473.
Coming up through 5,000 feet. And let's continue the turn. Let's continue the turn because the ADF is now noticeably swinging. Yeah, that's us passing the ADF. So now let's ignore the ADF and let's now follow Compton.
61 Foxtrot London, go around the London City.
And now let's use the nav1 and nav2 needles. Let's use these two RMI dual needles as almost like a point-to-point radial, which is a lot of fun. Let's straighten up that.
7 uniform Mike, fly heading.
So essentially, when we zoom in,
climb now, flight level 290.
you can see the two needles fit into each other. The needle 2 is actually
Ryanair 3 Charlie Foxtrot,
hollow,
350
and needle 1 is a single line. And when those two needles fit perfectly straight inside each other, we know that we're on the exact line in between what we're tracking behind us and what we're tracking in front of us. And that is, as far as I'm aware, pretty much the best way we can track the semblance of a radial, some form of a radial in the Stratocruiser. We have no radial equipment and we have no DME equipment, which is sad. To be fair, this was an aircraft developed in probably 1947, 1948, and it came into service in 1949. So we may be just developed. This aircraft may have just been developed before the advent of more exact navigational equipment. Although that kind of still doesn't ring true to me because
backtrack line up runway 20.
Things like the Connie and the DC-3 and other aircraft that were active in the war have radial tracking and all sorts. So why exactly the Stratocruiser was designed without that, I don't know. But I think maybe it was due to the fact that the Stratocruiser was mainly marketed towards long overseas routes
London
where
Control,
you didn't have those
London
navigational things anyway. You would just use stellar navigation. So
568 London, hello.
it's still in a
now,
kind of
flight level
weird
130.
time period of history where a lot of things haven't come in
Ryanair 3 Charlie Foxtrot, turn left,
standard.
295.
Nice to see some autogen down there.
Line
And
61 Foxtrot, turn right, heading
our
230
VAS is now
degrees.
310 megabytes.
Seabed 501,
I
contact
don't
London,
want to risk a
127.825.
view outside the aircraft yet, though, because it might force some scenery.
Seabed 501, contact London, 127.825.
127.825, speed 501.
Ryanair 3 Charlie Foxtrot, descend to altitude 2,000 feet, cleared ILS for
Okay,
127.821.
127.821. 127. That is 82. Set. 127.82. Set in the box. Right.
London Center, Ryanair 9 kilo, 9 kilo after.
Let's just flatten out that climb rate. We've got, we want to climb about roughly 500 feet per minute is fine. It's just the speed. I'm seeing the speed drop below a 170 and I want to keep my eye on that. London Center, hello, Speedbird 501 climbing through flight level 08. Okay, so still looking at. Actually, we've passed to the right of track. So let's just add in a tiny nugget of.
London, we can't hear you, mate.
Yeah,
that's what's
I haven't
happening.
heard a response from you, Jersey 2 Foxtrot Eagle.
Okay, so we're right over Compton, and once we we're swinging back around onto Compton. Now let's track Brecon or Brecon Beacons, which is 1745.
Tic-Tac 169 Yankee, you've responded to me several times. I'm pretty sure you can hear me.
No, it's just twice. Takeoff 169 Yankee.
1745, and the previous was 1435. Let's go over to nav.
Seabed 180 Yankee, climb for level 380.
1435 set. Right, we now again have two VORs, one behind, one in front, and we want to get those needles perfectly dead centered, so we know that we look like
Seabed 180 Yankee, London.
we look like we're slightly left of track. But we'll get a bit further out before we we need to contact him again, because just keep our manifold pressure at 45 in the climb.
Seabed 180 Yankee, climb for level 380.
380 for Speedbird 180 Yankee.
London Speedbird 501. Hello. I'm not sure if I heard you. If you talked to me earlier on, climbing through 10,000 feet for flight level 130. Wait. London, hello, Speedbird 501, climbing through 10,000 feet for flight level 130. Sorry if I didn't catch you earlier on.
Seabed 180 Yankee, London.
Speedbird 180 Yankee.
Does he even hear me?
Setting intercooler flaps.
And London, Livery Stratocruiser, can you hear me?
TikTok 1 takes 9 Yankee, can we request further climb?
Oh, lovely, I think it started to work again. TikTok 169 Yankee, climb flat level to 400.
Okay, above 10,000, lights off.
TikTok 169 Yankee.
Passenger...
Seabird 18, climb level 380.
Passenger seatbelts and signs off.
And anyone else who's called me in the last few minutes, give me a call again.
Speedbird 501, climbing through flight level 110 for 130.
Speedbird 501, London, climb level 180.
180, thanks, 501. Excellent, so he's given us clearance now
control,
to...
Hello, Lufthansa 513, Bones, flight level... Climb flight level 130, pressing 100.
Mute that a little bit more. So he's given us... he has given us...
This is a 568, turn right, heading 295.
He's given us flight level 180. And in doing so, we're now cleared to standard barometric pressure. Let's give us standard barometric
climb to 340.
which is 29.902 or 1013.
American 69er, we want to climb up to 340.
American 69, climb flight level 340.
340, American 69.
Ryanair 9 Kilo X-ray, you with me?
Ryanair 9 Kilo X-ray with you.
Ryanair 9 Kilo X-ray, thank you, descent level 200.
Cool. Sorted. And our radial has pretty much... Our radial has pretty much straightened out the two needles. Look at that. Perfect. Our needles have straightened out, gents, and we have the needle, the RMI needle 1, dead ahead at negative 1 degrees,
Yankee, climb level 400.
which is 1 degrees to the left of our heading. And needle 2 is 179, which is 1 degree to the right of our straight back. Which means that those two VORs are showing as dead ahead and dead straight behind us. And that's how we pretty much know that we are on a radial. We are on that radial between those two VORs, even though we're not...
uniform, you're leaving control airspace at 190.
Even though we're not tracking that radial actively with our machinery on board, we know that we are physically on that line between those 2 points, because we can see it displayed there. So that's the only kind of way that I know how to be relatively exact when flying VOR to VOR navigation on VATSIM. Now our heading should be on this track 283. So let's just set 283 on the course. 283, and then we should actually then be able to see if we have any wind deviation. And you can see there, if we're following the correct track, we are slightly 283. We are slightly to the right of track. Which, and I know that on takeoff I had a wind from the north, and so that makes sense. So it's just about watching. It's just about watching our two RMI needles, and as we, actually I can see, there's a slight kink happening there between the one needle and the other, ever so slight though, so I think this wind is strengthening, and based on that judgment I'm going to tweak the nose slightly to the right, and that should do it.
EZA 8 Mike Whiskey Delta, climb flight level 320.
Coming up through 13,000 feet now, bound for 180.
Lima, are you able to continue visually?
We've now got 640 megabytes of VAS. So our VAS has doubled since leaving Heathrow, which means I feel like I could probably do an external view. I'm just afraid of doing that, in case the VAS kills me. I'll try it anyway. Here goes. Whew. Yes. Okay. Perfect. VAS hasn't decreased at all.
Ryanair 9 Kilo X-ray, contact Shannon 131.150.
Yep. Now that I'm changing views, London has completely unloaded. I have no VAS issues when when going through external cameras. I just have to remember that as soon as I get close to loading in London, I need to stay in my internal cockpit camera and not deviate from
behind
that.
the immediately landing traffic, just
Because
down now, wait
in P3D version 3.4, VAS really is an issue around London. Everywhere else it's pretty much fine. But,
its radar vectors for the
right, let's turn off the nose gear. Excuse me, and the nose light, and we should be golden.
Version 169 Yankee, contact Shannon 131.150, goodbye.
129.45, lovely.
Negative 131.150.
Let's just look at our weather.
Sorry, got mixed up.
Weather should be fine. So, systems to watch. Engine 3 is 218 Celsius, which is actually very good. I mean, if
Jersey 6 Romeo Victor cleared the direct arrival via Exmoor.
And that's the hottest engine. He always flags up the hottest engine. Turbo 2 is 100%. Let's now jump inside and see what VAS. No VAS issue there. Coming up through 14,000 feet. Let's go to the back flight engineer's station.
Break. EC76 Romeo Whiskey.
We can see we have no APU because that's obviously been turned off after departure, and you can see each engine generating some electricity, and if you add all that electricity together, you have about 28 volts.
Can we maintain 290? There's no point in the 2320.
We don't have the ground blower on it, obviously, anymore. The turbo bleeders are on. He has opened those up. And our auto flight engineer is our dynamic flight engineer.
568, climb level 320, route direct
or live engineer, as it were. He is regulating the cabin pressure.
568, route direct to Badsea, climb flight level 320.
You can see our aircraft is coming up through 15,000 feet, and our cabin is climbing through 5,200 feet. You can see the climb rate of the cabin pressure. You can see the rate of change, and you can see the goal is just over 6,000 feet. So he should be leveling off soon.
At the moment, we're planning to
you can see he has the display of altitude and speed. We can see our temperature, cabin temperature and flight deck temperature is holding at 21 Celsius. You can see our oil, and that will depreciate or that will reduce over the flight. And we have a reserve tank that he will begin pumping from the reserve tank to individual tanks that need topped up. Let's also go to the navigator's panel. This gauge here in the corner does actually work. We can turn it on if we do this, and it will actually show us the radio altitude above the ground. And this is very helpful when coming down to land at an airport that is, let's say, 2,741 feet off the ground, above sea level. And this really helps us gauge in conjunction with this gauge, the radio altitude gauge, but this only goes up to 4,000 feet, and then it's not effective because it's off the gauge. Let's just adjust our manifolds again, and let's just double check now. You can see we turned a bit further to the right, and we can also still see that we're left of track. So let's just tweak the heading again a little bit.
Delta direct to sit when ready to send level 200.
And we'll call it there.
Easy 8 Mike Whiskey Delta direct to sit when ready to send level 200.
Direct sit Q and when ready to send level 200. Easy 8 Mike Whiskey Delta.
Okay, looking at our speed, we are decreasing speed ever so slightly, but now we're coming up through flight level 170. So we've got 1,000 to go. I'm just going to ask the controller if we can climb to flight level
Jersey 6 Romeo Victor, descend flight level
19er and then descend to 180.
Flight level 60, Jersey 6 Romeo Victor.
American 69, contact Shannon, control 131.15.
131.15, have a good day, American 69er.
EG7144, descend to altitude to 2,000 feet.
Descend 2,000 feet, EG7144.
EG76 Romeo Whiskey, route direct to Rogag.
Rogag?
Route direct to Rogag, EG76 Romeo Whiskey.
London Control, Speedbird 501. We are we're a Boeing Stratocruiser. We're requesting potentially climbing flight level 190 and then descending 1,000 feet to our real cruise of 180 to attain our efficient cruise speed.
Bravo Alpha 503, climb is approved, block between 170 and 210.
I didn't understand what he said. He
Speedbird 501, that's approved. You can fly between flight level 170 and flight level 210. Report level at 180.
A-firm, thanks for that. We'll report level at 180. Thanks. Oh, okay, I didn't catch the first part of his transmission. Sounded like he was talking to another aircraft to my ear, but you know, that's me. So he's given us a block between 17 and 21. Which is very kind of him. So we're going to climb up above 18,000 feet, and we're actually going to climb to 19,000 feet, and then descend back to 18,000 feet. And in that descent of 1,000 feet, we gain the speed into our cruise envelope. And this is something that aerodynamically makes sense for large, heavy, piston-driven aircraft such as this, that want to attain that efficient cruise speed quickly at the top of climb, and doesn't have to sit there and try and build up to the cruise speed, pushing through the air pressure and pushing against that drag. I could sit and explain it. I could try and sit and explain it. It's a bit complex, but essentially, to get up to our optimum cruise speed, we use 1,000 feet's worth of descent to do that, as opposed to whacking our engines up to a higher pressure and potentially bursting them, to try to push through the air pressure and gain that speed without using altitude as our friend. So that's 190. Let's begin to just nose over ever so slightly. Let's get
Romeo Whiskey, climb flight level 330.
Let's get to about a 500 to 1,000 feet descent rate, and this is okay on the passengers. They don't mind. This is they can feel 500 feet per minute in a drop, but they can't. There's no issue in doing this in the Stratocruiser. Remember, we have that captain of the ship. Now you can see we're descending. Let's just maintain that 500 to 1,000 feet per minute descent, and we can see our altitude scrolling down. But most importantly, we can see that speed building in a much more quicker fashion than we would if we leveled off at 18,000 and then just waited for that speed to very, very slowly, gradually build. Because of angle of attack, because of air pressure, the drag associated with those two things, it's actually a lot more efficient to just climb an extra 1,000, descend. It's like a shelf. If you think of a shelf in the air, you're climbing to a higher altitude, and then you're using that extra shelf of 1,000 feet to then drop down to your true cruise altitude and slip into that optimum cruise speed. This is something jets, obviously, you just don't do this with jets because they have the power to do what they want. They don't really need to do this, but this is helpful for large piston airliners.
32 Foxtrot uniform, descend to altitude 3,500 feet.
We're coming up now. Now we're almost at our cruise altitude. Let's throttle back to our 40 inches of cruise manifold and our RPM of 2100, and that is our cruise setting. Cruise setting is set. We also want to bring our mixture now in cruise down to auto lean, and we've got the last 50 feet to go. Let's just flatten out slightly that descent.
Can you repeat the Q&H?
A few clicks on the pitch reference.
32 Fox uniform, it's 1037.
Ever so slight, almost perfect. 15 feet left to go, and then the altitude comes on.
ET 7144, turn right heading 180 degrees.
6 feet, come on, 4-3, 3 feet, 2-3, 1-3, bam. Altitude hold is now on. Now, the problem is that we have no DME equipment, so we don't know how close we are to a VOR. So the only way we know when we're over the top of our next VOR is when we see the needle swing, which is a bit difficult. I wish that we had DME equipment in the Stratocruiser. Let's just double check VATSIM.
London, Jersey 6 Romeo Victor, further descent.
Okay, we're now over Wales, and it looks like we're going to run all the way out over the water, and then he's going to give us Shannon control.
Descend to altitude 3,500 feet, QNH 1037.
Altitude 3,500 feet, the QNH 1037, Jersey 6 Romeo Victor.
Easy 7144, turn right heading 225, you've cleared the ILS approach 27.
Turn right 225, cleared ILS approach 27, easy 7144.
Speedbird 835, contact London 127.1.
I'm going to declare that I'm drifting right of track there.
Speedbird 18 Yankee, contact Shannon 131.150.
Just going to bring that needle centered.
Distance of 568 when ready to
there, because I know we do have a wind from the right.
Descent, ready for descent, and descent to 100 to reach the bus, no kind of factor safe.
Yankee Romeo Alpha Delta 2, contact Amsterdam 125.750.
125.750, Yankee Delta 2.
Distance of 568, contact Shannon 131.150.
So again, frequency please slow down from us.
131.150.
See our outside air temperature now at 18,000 feet is negative 22 Celsius.
Correct.
Thank you, bye-bye, November Pacific.
Jersey 2 Foxtrot uniform, we're going to have to resectorize London in a second, so if you're going to go to Unicom for now, 122.8, I'll ping you if we come back. Speedbird 501, Unicom 122.8, goodbye.
122.8, thanks, good evening, 501.
Easy 7144, runway 27, you are clear to land.
Okay, 122.8 set, Unicom. So in an epic twist that no one expected on VATSIM, of course, sarcasm, the controller is going offline and he's given us over to Unicom, and then that leaves us to proactively contact Shannon approach, Shannon radar when we get close enough. So we will do that. We're now holding flight level 180, airspeed of 206 knots, which if I look at, if I cheat and look at little nav map, we're going 252 knots of ground speed at 18,000, and we have about a 26 knot crosswind from the north. So I've got 630 megabytes of VAS. Oh! That's the needle. That's the needle flipping. So we know we're now directly overhead Brecon Beacon.
Hello again. This is your captain speaking.
Yeah, there you go. There's Brecon Beacon. Now we're going to go for Stew, which is 1310.
Enjoy our unique lounge and bar. The only onboard lounge and bar on any commercial aircraft in the world today.
That is true. Still true. Right, there's Stu. Right, let's just take a right-hand turn slightly. Begin engaging that, and then let's put Brecon Beacon in nav 2 so that we can track between the two of them, and that is 1745. Let's just wait for that little bit to change, and let's call it there. So that's 1745 set. 1745, 1310. Let's just bring our arm back again. So yes, so we should have Stu ahead of us and Brecon Beacon's behind us, and we can see we're pretty much still bang on that radial. Our new heading should be 287, so let's set that now, and the course 286, 287. You can see again that we are flying, our heading is right of track, and that's because of that crosswind component. So I'm just going to go use the bathroom while I'm in cruise, and then when I'm back we will get prepared for the arrival across the water into the Republic of Ireland and our descent into Shannon. While I do that, I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to put the view of the Stratocruiser onto cinematics mode. And yep, we're still holding 620 megabytes of VAS, so that should be fine. Well, folks, I'm just gonna be away from the stick for a moment, and I will be back momentarily. Might grab a cup of tea as well. Please enjoy the views in cruise, and I'll get back to you presently. So, ladies and gents, welcome back. We can see, well, yeah, we can see the water. We can see the coast of Wales. So I know that we must be fairly close to Stew. The real name of that waypoint is called Strumble. That's the name of the VOR. So we know that we're getting near Strumble because we can see the coast. We don't quite know in terms of the distance measuring equipment that we don't have, but we can see that we are, it looks like, ever so slightly to the left of track. No, sorry, ever so slightly to the right of track. No, actually, -3 and 179. Well, so the waypoint we're going towards is slightly off to our left, but the waypoint we are coming from is slightly off to our right. So actually, it's not, even though it looks, this is interesting, even though it looks like we're off that radial or that point-to-point track, we're actually not off it as much as we seem, and that's something you can easily. You see, we would be off if both needles were on the left-hand side of the compass. But since the one we're going towards is slightly to the left, and the one we're going away from is slightly to the right, less so than it is the one we're going towards, you can kind of visually make sense of that. Still holding 18,000 feet. The altitude hold on the Stratocruiser works perfectly well. It's really well done. And the autopilot system is incredibly simple and easy to manage. You literally just turn it on, and whatever attitude you're holding the aircraft in, it will immediately retain that attitude, but it will immediately level the wings and fly you straight. And then it's up to you to change the heading of the aircraft with this lever, left or right. You just scroll wheel left and right, and that will change the heading of the aircraft. But if, say for instance, if you put in lots of left, it will hold a left bank until you recenter by right-clicking. So you have to manually make those heading changes, and the aircraft doesn't care about crosswinds. The aircraft isn't going to hold a GPS track for you, even with a 50-knot crosswind or a 10-knot crosswind. You have to completely adjust for your own wind components. Because remember, there's no INS, there's no GPS, there's no nothing. This aircraft physically has no clue where it actually is across the face of the globe. The aircraft, that's what you have a navigator for. You're the chief captain. You've got a first officer to help you, and then you've got a flight engineer who manages a lot of the engine components, and then you've got a navigator who, it's his job to tell you where he thinks we are. It's not necessarily on you to know all the time exactly where you are. See, this is the 1950s commercial aviation. And so when it comes to an aircraft with the systems that we currently have, it's actually okay. I feel some people like to be even more hardcore, but I don't feel it's particularly wrong to have a general understanding off of Plan G or Little Nav Map of where you currently are at any given time, because your navigator would be constantly feeding that information audibly to you anyway. So I don't think it's particularly wrong to be able to glance at Little Nav Map as a reference. And if I drag it across from my second screen, you can see that we are indeed quite close to Strumble, and we've got to run to Shannon. Yeah, and that's the track we've done so far. If I zoom in to pay no attention to that orbital on final, but you can see the track that we did. You can see the one we did yesterday, which is what you saw the departure, and it actually, we crashed, ran out of VAS and crashed just about there. The sim crashed, and I reset the sim, and then you can see the track that I've just done, and we spliced the video in here, and you can see me tracking past the ADF, Whiskey Oscar Delta. I don't know why the map hasn't loaded in. I've never seen that before. Maybe I have to fix that. Some weird anomaly with the maps. And then we crossed over Compton, and on we went. You can see we had a few little tiny discrepancies, but for the 1950s, this is accurate navigation. This is not inaccurate navigation by any means. And even by VATSIM standards, even on a quiet day when the controller is really looking closely at your route, he's not really going to come on the radio frequency and say, actually, you're 400 yards or 800 yards off of your track. Could you please adjust? So I don't think there's a reason why you can't fly the Stratocruiser or a similar aircraft such as the A2A Constellation, A2A Simulations Constellation, on VATSIM. There's no reason why you can't. The PMDG DC-6 is in the same boat. It's the same kind of era of vintage commercial airliner with the same sort of navigational equipment. There's no reason why you can't fly these aircraft on VATSIM. It does give controllers a bit of a fright sometimes, because they're so used to dealing with 737s and A320s and more of the above that it kind of makes them kind of mentally have a bit of a crazy one. We're just passing over that VOR now. You can see we're over the dead space directly above, and then you'll see that needle again flick around. There we go. We've just passed Strumble. So let me just drag that back to my second screen, and now let's start thinking about outbound from Strumble. So we're going direct to Shannon from here, which is a 13.3. Let's just put that in. 13.3 is set. Oh, we can actually track that. I'm surprised. That's a long distance of a VOR. Good. Okay, I thought we were gonna have to be flying on a reciprocal radial situation here without a radial or a DME. So that was gonna be fun. Strumble behind us now is 13.1. So let's put that in nav 2. 13.1 set. So again, we have now a VOR ahead, a VOR behind, and we can see that we are slightly left of track, but we'll let the Strumble VOR behind us, so it's so close to us, we'll let that settle a little bit. Let's just throw in a bit of a left-hand turn here. Waiting for that needle to 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 2 degrees, about there. Bam. Right, wings level. Okay. Now we are going to... it's 122.8 is some default frequency for a... Let's look at VATSIM. Let's see, has Shannon control left us, or is it still here? Let's actually go to Shannon control prematurely. 131.15. 131.15 set. And then if I pull up Volanta, actually, you can see our... Oh, little bit of lag there. Oh, hello. A little bit of lag, okay. You can see our Compton 3 Foxtrot. Compton 3 Foxtrot is not difficult. It is very simple. Even without a DME, I could pretty much fly that. It was essentially just fly direct after departure on that reciprocal radio from London, which you can pretty much look at and roughly judge on your RMI needle. Take a left-hand turn, inbound, Whiskey Oscar Delta, out to Compton, and then from Compton...
All stations, unfortunately, Shannon is now closing, so resume on navigation, monitor Unicom 122.8.
Great service, bye-bye.
We were so close.
Yep.
We were so
Thanks
close.
for the service, bye.
Anyway. I'll make sure that my second leg, which will be from Shannon to Gander, I'll make sure that leg actually has a Shannon controller as well as Shannon control, as in a Shannon local controller, like the tower or the radar, and then also Shannon control. So we have some ATC outbound I very, very rarely ever fly into Shannon with ATC, so I was looking forward to this, but again, this is the nature of VATSIM. Unless you catch it on like on an event where you're assured that it's going to be there when you arrive, it's kind of sometimes hard to gauge. Yeah. This is Volanta. For those of you, I'm sure most of the world is already using this application, and it's just me that's catching up. Usually I track everything on Project Fly, and I've been doing so for years. I've about almost 4,000 hours tracked on Project Fly, but now I'm just getting... hello. I'm just getting used to Volanta, and I'm enjoying the facilities that it affords, and hoping that one day I could... excuse me. Hoping that one day I can convert all of my Project Fly logs and hours and routes to Volanta. Haven't quite figured out how that works yet. But now let's start thinking about our approach into Shannon. Now, so with the Stratocruiser, I generally like to descend at the same rate that I climb, which means that generally about 500 to 1,000 feet per minute, definitely not more than 1,000 feet per minute in the descent, or you get babies start crying and people start complaining. We're 125 nautical miles out from Shannon. I would start descending myself, because we're only at 18,000. We're not at 30,000 feet. So I would start descending in about 30 nautical miles when we get feet dry, and then we will be having... Actually, let's start descending now, because we want about 10 to 20 nautical miles of flying at 3,000 feet to slow down. We don't have speed brakes, so we need extra room to slow down compared to conventional commercial aircraft. So let us begin descent. So the way we do that, we just pull off the altitude control. We bring the manifold back to about 30 inches. Even more, depending how we feel. And then just nose the aircraft over with the autopilot pitch reference. And we nose over to between 500 to 1,000 feet. The live engineer will immediately start responding with cowl flap adjustments to our reduced manifold pressure. You heard him there. And now we've begun our descent. Pretty easy, right? Not too much to it. Maybe 1 or 2 ticks upwards. And all the while holding 2100 RPM, roughly. That's almost 21. Let's just tweak that slightly. There we go. All the while holding 2100 RPM, pretty much down until 3000 feet when we begin preparing for the ILS. Now, of course, as you may have noted earlier on in cruise, the Stratocruiser actually naturally cruises in a slight nose down attitude, and that's because of the angle of attack of the wings as they are attached to the wing root. The wings actually are angled at a certain angle, which means that when you want to fly straight and level, you actually have a nose down attitude. Now I'm also descending now, so you can even see that even more pronounced. But the Stratocruisers, and this is one of these weirdly unique facts about Stratocruiser flying, and my friend Ian Fisher actually did this. I don't know if he did it intentionally or he did it just based off of the way he felt, but he landed at Honolulu yesterday in the Stratocruiser in a nose down attitude, which meant that the nose gear touched the runway first, and then the main gear settled down onto the runway. And that is actually the standard procedure for Stratocruiser captains of the time. They would actually touch down on the nose wheel gear first, and then let the mains settle down afterwards. Now, that goes against every law, every convention, every religious text in aviation. But they would do that because of the way the wings, the angle of attack of the wings as they were designed to fit into the fuselage, the way they were angled against the airflow. It meant that if the Stratocruiser captains wanted to land with the mains first, the speed would have to be sufficiently slow enough for a greater angle of attack to allow the nose to be raised above the gear, the main gear, if that makes sense to you, right? So if they wanted to touch down with the mains first, they would be dangerously close to their stall speed. And that is the reason why they would always prefer, even though there's more danger of a nose gear collapse, because all of the force of the touchdown is now immediately being put through the nose gear as opposed to the two mains, right? So this is just part and parcel of flying the Stratocruiser, and there is a number of archive videos showing this nose down touchdown on approach, and you see the nose gear touch first, and then as the aircraft continues to bleed speed while running on its nose gear only, then you see the mains gradually settle. It did cause issues, as you can imagine. What happened is the aircraft would usually weather vane violently into the wind, because if you think about it, if your main gear aren't on the ground and you're only riding on the nose gear, the entire aircraft can pivot on that nose gear based on a strong crosswind. So it was it was challenging. I don't know how they would have reliably done it again and again and again. It was one of those things. But let me see if I can pull you up an actual video, an archive video, B377 Stratocruiser landing. Nope, that doesn't help. Ah.
Setting intercoolers.
Here we go. This is perfect. Right. Here we go, guys. So, now look at that. Look at that nose down altitude all the way to final, all the way to, and there's no flare at all. Watch this. Now watch that nose gear. As he comes down, he's still in a decisive nose down attitude. Now he's starting to level out ever so slightly. Nose wheel touches, nose wheel touches. There we go. Watch that. Nose wheel touches. The gear and the mains are still up. Touch, mains are still up. Look at that. And it's not until the aircraft. Let's see if I can.
Again. This is your captain speaking. We're descending to our destination, so the stewardesses will now prepare the cabin for landing.
Let's see if I can find you an even better clip here. Stratocruiser at Heathrow. Ooh. There's a DC something. Ah. Here we go. Right. Goodness me. Look at that. Look at that approach angle. Look at that. And watch the nose gear. Touch. And he bounced. You see that bounce. He touched. Wait. He touched. And you see in the touch, as he touched, it probably touched about here, maybe there. Maybe about there he touched, right? He's running on his nose gear. And the main gear will touch in a few seconds, but as the main gear touch, as he pulls back maybe and they touch, all of a sudden the aircraft, you'll see that the aircraft has more speed. He's coming in a little bit too fast, because he should just be able to touch with the nose gear and then the main gear settle as the speed bleeds. But the mains touch and then the aircraft lifts off again because it's changing the angle of attack of the wings and it's creating enough lift to go airborne again. Watch. And he's up again. He's up again. And then it cuts to the aircraft fully touched down, decelling. Wonder if I could find anything better for you here. It's kind of hard to see in old archive footage, but when you look closely, you will see it. And there's some archive footage I've seen that where it's so clear, it's so amazingly clear what's happening. It's just hard to pinpoint Stratocruiser landing 1949. That's what I was just looking at. No. Boeck Stratocruiser 1951. No, again, that's what I was just looking at. If I find it, guys, I will link it in the description. That's what I'll do. If I can find a really good example of what I'm trying to explain. But there, yeah. Anyway, so let's go and recheck our flight here. You can see we are to the right of track, quite definitively to the right of track. So let's just bring, maybe as we've descended, the wind has changed. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to bring the nose of the aircraft around, and I'm going to favor the Shannon VOR that we're heading towards. There we go. That should be fine. Coming down through 10,000 feet. Let's readjust our manifolds down to 30. And now coming down through 10,000, let's turn on the fasten seatbelt sign.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has put the fasten seatbelt sign up, so please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts until the sign is turned off.
Okay, no smoking as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has put the no smoking sign up, so please refrain from smoking until the no smoking sign is off.
That's a nice aspect of the Stratocruiser. I'm going to save that. In my outside, let's call it left top. And let's put it next to. Let's put it there. Yeah, that's a nice aspect. I like that. Still got 600 megabytes of VAS. I don't expect that to change. The Shannon scenery I have is pretty good. Coming down through 9,000 feet now. Let's set local barometric pressure. And the local barometric pressure at Shannon is 1036, 160 at 6 knots. 136. set. As we continue to descend, continue to tweak our manifold pressures so we're not going too fast. See, the problem with propeller airliners is that as you descend, you go into denser air. The denser air creates more thrust from the engines because your manifolds are being fed by more oxygen. The mixture becomes richer. Well, the fuel-air ratio becomes richer. Well, there's more oxygen than...
Now on approach. At this stage, you should be in your seat with your seatbelt firmly fastened.
As you descend, you need to richen the mixture to compensate. That's what I meant. So as we get down through, let's say 5,000 feet, I'll set it back to auto mic or auto rich. We're still tracking the Shannon VOR. In fact, we're going to put Shannon VOR on nav 2, and there's a reason for doing that. Shannon is 113.3. So we're going to put both on there, and the reason why I'm going to do that is because on nav 1 I'm going to put the ILS for Shannon, which is 109.5. 109.5. 109.5 set. Okay, so with 109.5, our nav 1 needle has gone dead, which is fine, but it means that our ILS gauge is going to snap into life once we get close enough to begin tracking the localizer for Shannon. And again, we should be fine. We should be fine actually with that. We are still showing slightly left, -1 degrees, but that's not significant enough, so we'll leave it there for the moment. Continuing to descend through 8,000 feet. This is good. It's good that I actually chose to. It's good that I chose to descend when I did, because I've done these approaches into Shannon in the Stratocruiser before and the Connie, where you think you gauge it right and you begin your descent, but by the time you level out at 3,000, you don't have the space to slow down, and you don't have speed brakes, so it takes longer for these big radial and inline engine airliners that have no spoilers. So you do definitely need that. So as we continue to descend, I just love the look. Just love the look of the Stratocruiser. I've wanted to be flying this again for so many years, and as P3D version 4 and 5 comes along, it's something that I haven't gone back and done. And it was recently some friends I was talking to, Ian Fisher and Adam from Ian's Discord. We were talking, and I just got inspired again to try it out, and so I reinstalled P3D version 3.4 and a number of add-ons just to be able to fly the 377. I've also got the Flight Replicas North Star, which the British named the Argonaut or Argonaut, and it's basically a DC-4 with Merlin engines, and the Boeing 1950s regional routes were staffed with the Argonaut, and you see the Argonaut being flown also on international routes as well, just not transatlantic ones, but you see the Argonaut being flown nationally and internationally alongside the Stratocruisers and the Connies in the 50s. As I fly the Stratocruiser, as I fly the Constellation, I'm also going to be learning the DC-4 with Merlin engines, the Argonaut, and I will be featuring it on the channel. There's not very many videos on YouTube of the Flight Replicas Argonaut, so I'm hoping to fly it on VATSIM, get familiar with it. I'm hoping to fly this beast on VATSIM even more than I already am. I've done a whole Africa tour in the Stratocruiser, which is a whole conversation for another video, I think. But West Africa Airways Corporation, which was first heavily influenced by BOIC, British Overseas Airways Corporation, West Africa Airways Corporation. You can see the influence there. But West Africa Airways Corporation bought the Stratocruisers from BOIC. Once the Comet and the 707 came into service, they were immediately put on the transatlantic routes, as you can imagine. And that meant that the Stratocruisers that had up until that point had been prioritized for the transatlantic routes were then taken off the transatlantic routes and then put on routes that were not necessarily Stratocruiser routes. The Stratocruiser was built and designed for long-haul travel, and that's really what the Atlantic crossings needed, was an aircraft like the Stratocruiser. But once again, as I say, the jets came along, the Stratocruiser's days on the Atlantic legs were no longer needed, so they would simply just shuffled onto other legs, they being the West Africa route from London down to Lagos and Accra. And that's a whole different historical set of routes for a different day. All I'll say now is that I have been flying them with Ian Fisher. I've flown the Stratocruiser across the Sahara, which was fun with Ian, and I will be reflying that same leg with the Argonaut, because the Argonaut also flew that exact same route, a set of routes in the 50s. The Argonaut just had to make more stops. That's essentially the story with that. So, okay. Excuse me. Now we are about 1,000 feet to go. Let's turn on track IR. And I'm so thankful that the second attempt on leaving London was successful. I kept my track IR was frozen, and my view for most of the departure was stuck in this forward mode, and I didn't look left, I didn't look right. I made sure that my P3D simulation didn't have any extra things it had to load on departure, so that my VAS was not exceeded. Okay, getting a little bit of turbulence here, but my seatbelts are on, so there's not much I can do about that, apart from get on the ground. You can see my radio altitude is now starting to work. Let's set the radio altitude at 3,000 feet. That's where we want to be. We've got 700 feet to go. So actually, with 700 feet to go, we will not level out on what our altimeter calls 3,000 feet. We're going to level out on what our radio altimeter calls 3,000 feet above the ground, which is more helpful. Our Shannon is at 46 feet elevation. So there's that. I'm going to start to level out now. Yeah, 180 feet to go. You'll see the below, on, and above lights start to flash as we come down through that 100 feet left. We've come down through the cloud base. We can see some hills ahead of us, so we don't want to be too low. We're going to fly over these hills. Let's pull the nose up slightly. Why is it saying we're below 3,000 now? That should have been on above, but maybe it's because I didn't turn that selector on the far side. Let's do that. Yeah, that's true. It was the far side selector. Let's put our altitude constraint now on 1,000 feet. Now that we're down through there, let's put on the altitude hold. And let's just watch out the front window, make sure that we don't hit any hills. So the magnetic bearing for our localizer is 239 at Shannon. So let's set 239. Set. So you can see the airfield will be on our left hand side. It's off in the distance there. I'm very glad that I've actually begun slowing down. Let me just sorry guys, let me just change my seat position here. So we should be on we should be on. Let's go to Unicom. Is that default radio gonna pop back up? I don't think so. We're out of range of that now, which is good. And we've got good visibility right now. We can't see any terrain issues. The localizer has just become active. It's not accurate though at this distance. It's saying that we're right of track, but we're actually very far left of track. So that should swing back in the opposite direction soon to accurately reflect that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce manifold to 25 inches now, because we really want to get our speed as close to that white line as possible before we start reducing flaps or start introducing flaps. Sorry, we have flap warning. Do not begin to lower flaps above 180 knots. We're 184, so let's just do our best to get that down as soon as we can. There's a good front view there. So we have, we should have put our landing lights on coming down through 10,000 feet. I was distracted by the fasten seatbelt and the no smoking individually. I remember that now. I should have done that. And the nose light on. So our landing lights, our nose light is all on. Although, you know, this is modern procedures. You know, landing lights weren't always put on when you came down through 10,000 feet in the 1950s. You know, your standard operating procedure for commercial aviation was not the same as it is today. So it's not like we really made a biggie there or anything. Excuse me, 174 knots now. Okay, we've got a river here, and then this river dumps out into the North Sea. Into the this is the tributary that dumps into the Foynes area. We've got some bigger lakes up there that trickle down into the Foynes area, where the B314 Clipper used to take off and land at. Which the model, there was an add-on released for that, but I don't like to talk about it because it was very, very badly presented, and the modeling and the coding is an absolute pig's breakfast. So let's go mixture rich. I should have done that as we settled into, should have done that as we came down through about 5,000 feet, but it won't harm the aircraft running in auto lean, you know, but it's more healthy for the engines to be at auto rich at this altitude. flight engineer, as always, manipulating the cowl flaps on the backside of those massive radial engines to keep the engines at the optimum running temperature. They can be too hot, but they can also be too cold. So managing that is a constant issue. Been quite a long time now, and oh, actually, before I continue, you can now see that we have a nose-up attitude, and that's because of our speed is now slower. That's a nice shot there. You can see that we have a slight nose-up speed. Sorry, a nose-up pitch. We have 2 degrees pitch up. We should see the ILS localizer flip at some point soon. Did I hear another aircraft? Maybe. Okay. One thing about the scenery, folks, at Shannon is that there's no winter textures for this particular scenery. The scenery I've got for Shannon is an old FSX scenery, which is so old it doesn't have winter textures. That's weird. We've got some green trees there. We're still waiting for that ILS to flip. Shouldn't be long now. Oh. Okay, we've got ourselves a bit of a stutter there while Shannon scenery loads in. Let's see what our VAS is doing. VAS is fine, actually. Okay, that's good. Right, so I can see that we're getting close to this localizer, but it's still showing right of track when we're actually left of track. We're most definitively left of the localizer, not to the right. So let me just double check that. 1095 set. Okay. Well, we'll just write it down and see what happens. It might flip over at the last moment. It might not. So there's Shannon right there. There's Shannon. So we are quite close. Let's introduce flaps 1 or flaps 5.
Flaps 5 degrees.
You can see the aircraft gently nosing forward to compensate for that increased lift. And let's just ease those engines back to about just above 20 inches manifold. And what we're going to do is we're going to come off the autopilot now and fly this manually. For some reason, I can see the runway center line there. I'm going to begin my turn, but for some reason today, that localizer isn't working, and it has worked in the past. So I'm not quite sure why that localizer isn't working. It's definitely 1095. Anyway, the Stratocruiser, when in a bank, needs a lot of rudder. A lot of rudder. Remember this. Flaps 10.
Flaps 10 degrees.
Let's go gear down.
Gear down.
Gear is down. Gear is down, 3 green. Oh, there's the localizer now. It's now decided to work. Now it shows us on center line. And do we have a glide slope? It says off. So we'll see what happens. Pretty sure last time I checked we had both. We should have a glide and a loc at Shannon. But we can just pretend that we can just have pretend that they have issues maybe with their ILS equipment today. Okay, so we're looking good. Let's continue to increase flaps.
Flaps 20 degrees.
Let's bring flaps down to 30 inches for this landing.
Flaps 25 degrees.
Like so.
Flaps 30 degrees.
Flaps 30 set. Let's bring my 2D panels up. Let's bring the props now to max RPM. So, check. Mixture, auto rich, props max, manifold I am monitoring. I'm just bringing my manifold up to compensate for that loss in torque pressure, which is, the torque pressure are very helpful gauges. Okay, and I can see that I'm too high, so I'm going to have to start to actually decrease. Oh, and there is the summertime textures just loaded in, unfortunately, but you know. In fact, I mean, the default snow textures are what's wrong. You very rarely get snow this thick and this deep in Ireland. So I can see one of the green, one of the reds.
Flight attendants, prepare for landing.
Okay, as I increase manifold, we're going to see how we can. Oh, I've got a left crosswind of 4 knots. I'm going to see how I can work this. Let's go to hundreds of feet, and let's go to 200 feet for the decision height. So missed approach will be straight ahead up to 3,000. No, don't cry. Please don't cry. I was doing so well. Why are you crying? There's a discrepancy in manifold pressure between engines 1, 2, 3, and 4, which I don't like to see. Oh, we're down through 200. Oh no, sorry, no, we're still above. I read that wrong. We're still above, and we're a little bit high still, so let's continue to descend. I feel like babies always cry on the Stratocruiser, where in the Connie I never got babies crying, hardly at all. Let's just cut our throttles. Yeah, we are still a bit fast. We might start to see. Would you look? I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
500 feet.
500 feet.
400 feet.
There's. Watch those lights below. Okay, continue.
200 feet.
Okay, we don't want to be too much slower than this. This is already pretty slow.
100 feet.
This is our rotate speed. Coming down through. Okay.
50, 40,
30. Okay.
20.
Flare and reduce throttles. Actually, that was a conventional landing. Let's just free roll to the end of the runway. And there's the terminal. Let's just free roll and let's go flaps up in the meantime.
Flaps up.
Flaps are up. Let's turn off our landing lights, and let's turn off our strobe. Let's turn on the gear, and raise our RPM into the green, so that we don't have oil issues. And welcome to Shannon, ladies and gentlemen, in the A2A Simulations B377 Stratocruiser. Let's just follow the yellow line here, off the runway. We are on Unicom, and I should have been doing my calls, but there's pretty much no air traffic around at all, so... Shannon traffic, Speedbird 501 is off runway,
This is your captain. We're now taxiing back to the terminal. Please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened until the aircraft has come to a complete stop.
2-4.
On behalf
Completely
of myself and the
completely
entire
forgot
crew,
what that was.
We thank you for flying with us. And please, come see us again.
Okay, and again, such similar to the way we were taxiing at Heathrow, I'm going to bring the two engines off We're going to turn mags 4 and 1 off. And we're going to taxi in on 2 engines, which is what they would have done. Okay, so as we taxi in, we don't need all these lights. The position lights, let's keep on. The passing light, let's turn off. The taxi, let's keep on. We don't need the gear. It's daylight outside, and the rest is fine. Let's turn on the step lights, actually, in preparation for the deboarding. I'm interested in flying the Argonaut around these areas. Particularly on VATSIM as well. Okay, so we're just going to take the parking stand over here on our right. Let's just swing the old girl around. Increase left throttle to bring us around in the turn. Stand 3-9. Increase the right throttle now to help us in the turn. Center the throttles. And let's open the window here. I'm actually I'm a bit too far to the right. Bring that in. That's about it. Oh, close but okay. Okay, so now with our chocks in,
Oil pressure is coming up. Shutting systems down.
let's starve the engines. Let's turn off positions, taxi, beacon. Fasten seatbelts and no smokings.
The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, which means you can leave your seat
Let's
now.
unload the aircraft. And the aircraft begins unloading. So, ladies and gents, thank you so much for joining me on this flight. This is... We're about to... yeah, there's a strange scenery glitch there. This is old FSX scenery. But... We did leg 1 from London to Shannon. We're going to refill the tanks to max. I will pay attention to Debrief though to see what Debrief says if we don't quite need 100% fuel. But it would be kind of cool to for you folks to see a maximum takeoff weight kind of departure out of Shannon. And that's going to be roughly an 8-hour flight from Shannon to Gander in Newfoundland. And then from Newfoundland, we fly from Gander to LaGuardia in New York. And then the return flight from New York to London, when the winds are right, you can have such horrendous tailwinds in the Gulf Stream that you don't need to refuel at Shannon or Gander. You just go direct from LaGuardia to Heathrow, and I have done that before. That's been a lot of fun. So review your flight. Here we go. This is the cool. I like the 3D view here in Volanta. You can see the beginning of descent over the Irish Sea, and as you saw the last period, the last 10 to 20 nautical miles maybe of the approach was done pretty much. Altitude was level as I decelerated, and then I made a gentle turn on to the final approach, and then I landed with, let's see, 121 feet per minute. I believe it's under 100 feet per minute that the passengers clap for you, which is always fun, always satisfying, and then turn off the active taxi on Alpha to hold at stand. So that was the flight on Volanta, and we are still deboarding. Car bear is cold. You can see the oil button is red, which means that we don't really have we don't have a happy amount of oil for another flight. So that's where at the beginning of our second flight we will actually top up all those oil tanks for the long haul, which will suck a lot more oil on the long haul than this short flight to Shannon. We're landing with just above 21 gallons in each tank, but we would expect to see those go down to all the way down to 12 gallons, and then he would be topping up individual tanks that need it from the center tank. Pitot is off, wings and prop de-icers are off. He's actually still got the as the doors opened and the aircraft was shut down, he turned on the ground blower and the body heater to continue to maintain a 21 Celsius temperature in the aircraft. He can do the opposite, which is cooling. I have across the West Africa leg been having to use cooling to cool the cabin and the flight deck to 21 Celsius, because those destinations are usually like 30, 35 Celsius. It can get pretty bad. And actually, I've done some reading, and the Stratocruiser power situation means that the air conditioner needs at least 3 of the 4 engines running to sufficiently cool the cabin. And back in those days, that's what happened. Back in those days, it was actually quite normal for them to load passengers on the left-hand side of the fuselage with a number 2 engine running. But the standard engine startup sequence is 3-2. Let me get this right. Sorry, 2-3-4-1, I believe, is the standard. Although, it varies. It varies airline to airline. It varies. You're the captain of the ship, and you're the one that makes the decisions. So let's go and see Heidi. Heidi, she's looking splendid as always. Okay, that's right. That is the passengers have left. The aircraft's been shut down. Let's go over and see the engines, all about 30.8 hours roughly, and all on excellent. Let's go look at the captain's log.
We're all wrapped up back here. So long.
Thank you, Heidi. We've done 11 flights now. Total time 43 hours. That is the West Africa routes I was talking about earlier are all added in here. You are a captain. The airline is satisfied. Last flight, which is what we just did, 1 hour 26. That's good. That's good for usually in the Connie. It's a 2-hour flight to Shannon. Fuel cost is $250. Maintenance cost $216. Cost per mile $1.25. Passenger comment: it was great. It was like a great house party on that plane. No raves about my landing. I have to do something to get noticed. So I need to really pull out my A game on those landings and really have smooth landings for them to be able to really start to appreciate my contribution in the captain's log. For the A2A simulations Lockheed Constellation, I have about 50 flights on my career, and they basically think I'm a god. But since installing P3D version 3, I have a lot of ways to go on the captain log. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. That is part 1 of the new and updated series on the Stratocruiser being flown in P3D version 3.4. Despite the fact we now have V5 and we have Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's worth coming back to an add-on like this that was released in 2008 because it's so good and so fun to fly and satisfying to fly. It's just so niche, but yet it's so beautiful, and I love vintage aviation history. It really is a thing of beauty. Learning all the old routes, learning how the aircraft operated, learning the standards of aviation of the day, and then trying to perform to those standards in a flight simulator day with modern VATSIM who's helping you out at the same time, and aircraft flying around you, jets and so forth. And every now and then you get online with a friend who also flies a vintage something, and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, my voice is almost dead, but thank you for watching part 1, and hope to see you soon on part 2, and a lot more to come in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to be flying the Twin Otter and all various other things soon. So thanks. See ya.